Now, when looking up Nashville Predators um, history, I'm looking up the near misses for the most part. But a couple of times in Nashville's history where they've been close. They've been contenders. They've been looking like maybe they've got a shot, and then it falls apart for them. And what they did this past summer when they traded out Weber for Subban was try to take that last step. And I feel bad for Nashville in that they've been trying to take that last step for a while. And it hasn't had great results. Now, this past spring, they got further than they've ever got, which is Game 7 of Round 2. Which means that, if you qualify series by how easily they're won, they're, what, the 5th best team in the league then? Last year. And, there's a lot of people who talk about where their failings are or aren't. In this video, I'm going to get more into close, times they were close, their beginnings, their current status in the NHL. I remember early in their existence, they got a kid named Scott Walker out of Vancouver that the Canucks couldn't do anything with, and the Predators made him a consistent goal-scoring threat, and he was tough as nails, and he fought, and he was a damn good player. David Legwand was drafted there, was supposed to be this big star. He was groomed by Cliff Ronning. Cliff Ronning played a big part in Nashville's first 3 years in the NHL, which made me a big Predators fan. And over the years, they've had guys like Correa and Forsberg and other big-name players have passed through Nashville. Nashville's issue has been money a lot of the time, which has got better in the last few years. Winning certainly will help your financial bottom line. Even if you spend a little extra money on your players, you're going to have more gate receipts. And then if you have those playoff gates, you're really talking about some serious money. So, and going back to a magazine from some time back, Greatest Team Ever. This is again looking back to 2012. So this is 4 years ago. This doesn't include the Nashville Predators of this past season, who you could argue, and successfully, was the best Nashville team they've had. And there are Nashville Predators players that I am a big fan of, especially Victor Arvidsson and Roman Josi. These are two guys who, Josi is not a secret anymore. Josi has definitely had his coming out party the last couple seasons. And Arvidsson, I think, is revealing himself to be a more consistent offensive threat than people had expected when he came up. But I saw it in the playoffs, and it's one of the most rewarding things about being a fan of hockey for as long as I have is you'll watch a kid play out there and you go, this kid is going to be a scorer, because you see the hard work that's being put in. You see his tenacity to get the puck, his ability to pass the puck, his vision on the ice. You see these things, and this is where, the advanced stats are all nice to have and fun and whatnot, but you can see watching a game when a kid has that potential. Not all of them realize it. I'm going to go ahead and throw a name out of Toronto's past year, Matt Fratton. Matt Fratton, up until recently, one of my favorite players 5 years ago, I think it was, and he had all the potential in the world. He had that vision, he had that tenacity, he had all of it going for him, and then it fell apart. He had injuries, problems getting into the lineup, and his confidence failed him, and within a couple of years, that potential was gone. Now, Arvidsson this year started coming through, and even though the Predators are underperforming at the time that I record this, which is November 12th of 2016, the potential is still there. They still have the potential to be a contender. All right. So Thrilling and Illing is the name of this article, and the Nashville jersey, which I'm wearing, is the same one as Peter Forsberg is wearing there. People may not remember Peter Forsberg played in Nashville. He didn't play there for very long. It was a historical moment for a star-crossed franchise. The 2006-2007 Nashville Predators, small market sellers for most of their existence, as I mentioned, landed the biggest name available at the trade deadline. Peter Forsberg, FOPA to his admirers. I never called him FOPA. To me, that just doesn't sound like a good name. Sounds like something you say to a guy who's falling all over the ice all the time. Came to Music City in a blockbuster deal that sent left winger Scotty Upshall, a guy I like, defenseman Ryan Parent, plus the Predators' first and third round selections in the 2007 draft to the Flyers. The move sent a bold message to a group of players in the midst of putting together Nashville's best year to date, a campaign that would see the Preds rack up 110 points in the regular season. He was one of the best players of the 90s, said David Legwand, the first draft pick in Predators history. It was awesome to have him and learn from him. The Predators finished second in points in the Western Conference, but were unfortunately stuck behind division rival Detroit, thus relegating Nashville to the fourth seed in a date with the potent San Jose Sharks, who dispatched them in 5 games. For a team used to losing assets to financial constraints, the Preds marched out an impressive roster in 06-07, one which featured forwards Paul Kariya, Jason Arnott, and I loved Arnott. His time in Nashville made me love Jason Arnott quite a bit. It is one of those rare things to see a player get better as he gets older, and Arnott got better and better into his 30s. He was fantastic. Alexander Radulov and Steve Sullivan, whose season was cut short by a major back injury, which sadly Sullivan's career wasn't as long and fruitful as it should have been due to injuries. Thomas Vokoun was rock steady in goal while Kimmo Timonen led the defense corps. That was the most talented team we've had, said Barry Trotz, the only coach the Preds have known. This was obviously before the Preds let him go. They were a good group. They believed they could win a cup, and that was the first time we believed we could. The downside was we never got to see that because we had a lot of people out with injuries come playoff time. If we could have stayed healthy, I would like to think we could have done some damage. Probably true. But a date in the first round with the Sharks wasn't easy for them. And, you know, Barry Trotz, fantastic coach. But for all the talk about Bruce Boudreau and playoffs, Barry Trotz has a very similar resume. Not known for coaching teams that can win the big one. And of course, you know, I'm sure you're going to say, well, Nashville didn't have the roster. And they didn't. They didn't have the roster. But Washington does, and he hasn't done it yet there. So it's, you know, it's a short, small sample size in the playoffs. But you know, I do wonder with Trotz. Now, this is from my. Let me get this out. Yeah, there. The great debates. Best defenseman, Suter versus Weber, and this is where I can hear the advanced stats guys yelling at me right now. Listen, I can't hear you, so you guys are just gonna have to calm down just a little bit. Suter versus Weber, and I know there's a bunch of guys yelling, Suter, Suter, Suter. The debate about Nashville's best defenseman ever begins and ends with blocked shots. 14 times in Predators' history, a player has blocked 140 or more in a year. Ryan Suter is not responsible for any of them. Shea Weber accounts for 4. It is true and central to Suter's game that if a defenseman is in the right spot, he doesn't need to block shots. Either he eliminates the possibility of an attempt altogether, or he allows his goalie to see the puck and make a save. During his 7 seasons in Nashville, Suter's positioning was impeccable. Goaltender Pekka Rinne once said he never had a teammate that was easier to play with. That Suter was in the right spot at the right time almost all the time was a benefit to all of his teammates, especially Weber, Suter's longtime defense partner. Weber's strengths routinely took him out of position. Every time he went wide and drilled someone into the boards, it was Suter who covered for him. Whenever Weber joined the attack and sought opportunities to unleash his lethal slap shot, Suter handled the entire back end. Greatness is not always glamorous. It is about doing all the little things that make a huge impact. Sure, Weber plays a big game, but no Nashville defenseman ever has done as many little unheralded things as well as Suter. Because he was always in the right spot at the right time, Suter made it look easy. But look long and hard, and you'll never find a better Predators defenseman. Roman Yossi says hi. And this is versus the opinion of Shea Weber. It was disheartening for Nashville fans when Ryan Suter left for Minnesota via free agency, but it was shocking when Shea Weber was traded to Montreal. While Suter was a very good defenseman for the Predators, Weber was the captain and heart of the franchise during his tenure. And it wasn't just his granite hard persona that led the way. For starters, no one intimidates with his shot more than Weber. The small-town BC kid who grew up firing pucks off a piece of plywood from a sawmill became a man with a cannon at his disposal. He went from hitting cans tied to nets to shattering glass and putting pucks through the net. So goalies do not like Weber very much. But enemy skaters aren't too fond of the Canadian captain either. Weber's big, physical, and surly in the corners. With Chris Pronger out of the game, he represents one of the best reasons to be a perimeter player in the NHL right now. Fear is still a strategic move in hockey, and Weber instills it every night. Although he's now in Montreal, Weber will not be forgotten in Nashville. Like Suter, he ate big minutes for the Predators. Like Suter, he's an international regular. But unlike Suter, Weber's a two-time Olympic gold medalist, one of the NHL's most feared players, and by extension, a more versatile threat. He had scored 106 more goals than Suter in 68 fewer games. Nashville will miss him far more than Suter. Now the question is, can PK Subban overtake them both to become the Predators' all-time number one? So let the debate reign. And yeah, this is their current NHL season, where it was projected they'd finish second in the division. I projected they'd finish first. With the record right now, it could be hard to picture either, but it is still early in the season. And the Predators last year had 96 points, so their point total was lower, but the team result was better. And it is kind of surprising they made such a major deal in the offseason, considering where they were at last year and the fact that they got further than they had before. Now this is the Predators' first year. This is their roster that first season. Let's get into what they say about the Predators before their first season in the NHL. The Predators are giving a new batch of coaches the chance to make names for themselves. Trotz, who turned 36 in July, hasn't coached in the NHL, but he posted some good numbers in the minor leagues. His best season was 93-94 when his Pittsburgh Pirates went on a Portland Pirates went on a 17-game unbeaten streak, finished 43, 27, and 10 in the regular season, and captured the Calder Cup, the American Hockey League Championship. Trotz earned AHL Coach of the Year honors. Overall, Trotz is 186, 153, and 54 as a pro coach. He guided the Baltimore Skipjacks of the AHL for one more year before taking over in Portland, where he remained for 4 years until hired by Nashville. Trotz is a fan of physical hockey, as indicated by the 312 penalty minutes versus 63 points he compiled in 153 games as a player with the WHL's Regina Pats in the early 1980s. Trotz is low-key, with a good sense of humor, but he has a reputation for becoming intense when necessary. I don't know if Trotz has a sense of humor. Does he? He's always got that glare from behind the bench. I mean, I think part of the reason his teams do so well in the regular season is they're scared of him. He just looks intimidating. His two assistants are Paul Gardner and Brent Peterson, former NHL first-round draft picks. Gardner, who played 447 games for 5 NHL teams, has been at Trotz's side for the past 6 years. Peterson, who played 620 games over 10 seasons, is fresh from guiding the Portland Winterhawks to the Memorial Cup Championship, one of several successful seasons he had in the WHL. In 7 seasons with Portland, Peterson was 201, 138, and 20, and his teams won at least 40 games 4 times. Peterson, who spent 2 seasons as a Whalers assistant, is the only one of the 3 with any NHL coaching experience, but all are recognized as excellent teachers, and that's probably what the Predators need more than anything else as they build to the future. And I remember Brent Peterson from his time in Vancouver as one of the best face-off men I ever saw, at least in a Canucks jersey. He was fantastic. Forwards, the Predators sought speed with the belief the league rules will open up the game in years to come, and it's true. They figure guys such as Greg Johnson, Bordelot. I don't think that was Patrick Bordelot. Sebastian Bordelot. And Sergei Krivokrasov fit that mold, and European acquisitions Patrick Schellberg and Ville Peltonen hold that potential as well. The Predators aren't especially big, and Trotz would like to remedy that with a pickup or two, perhaps via the waiver draft. But they do have their share of tough guys. Danny Lambert is probably the most recognizable. At left wing, he managed to pile up 250 penalty minutes in 72 games with Ottawa last year, increasing his NHL total to 526 minutes in 198 games. Patrick Cote, a 6'3", 200-pound left winger, is another masher, not afraid to play the body. There are a couple of other scrappers on the roster, and Scott Walker, 164 minutes in Vancouver last year. And that's all Walker was seen as having. Although I always believed in Walker's scoring potential. I never saw him as just a pest or just an enforcer. I knew he had talent. And Doug Friedman, 235 penalty minutes in 55 minor league games. Scoring, that's the key question. Nashville's hoping to get production from Kjellberg and Peltonen, and at least adequate production from a half dozen other forwards. Kjellberg appears especially promising. A left winger, he left his Swedish Elite League team with 30 goals and 18 assists after scoring 29 goals the previous year. He played on the Swedish team that won an Olympic medal in '94 and World Championship in '98. Kjellberg never really became a top six forward. The Predators are looking to fill their scoring void by committee with players such as Johnson, Turcotte, Atchingham, Krivokrasov, Bordelot, and Burnett capable of scoring 10 to 20 goals each. Burnett could be a sleeper. He's not an especially fast skater, but in 28 games with Washington last season, he compiled career highs of 11 goals and 20 assists, or 12 assists. Yeah, Andrew Burnett was kind of a keeper, and yet they let him go. Burnett ended up bouncing around the league quite a bit. Yet he was a really good player. Shadow. As for leadership, that task will fall to Tom Fitzgerald, who's been named captain as soon as he was signed as a free agent. Fitzgerald was a good pickup for them, too. He was their captain for, I believe, 4 years. Defensemen, there seems to be something for everyone here. J.J. Daigneault, Bob Boughner, Rob Zettler, and Jay Moore are the most experienced members of the group, and they'll be counted on to stabilize Nashville's bounty of young players. Boughner is the most physical, illustrated by 165 penalty minutes in 69 games with Buffalo. There's another group of young defensemen with lots of offensive potential, such as John Slaney, Jan Vopat, and European signee Kimmo Timonen, who was the steal. Really was the steal. Slaney, like Burnett, was drafted by Predators general manager David Poile in Washington and played under Trotz and Gardner in the minors. Nashville's convinced it can boost the career of Slaney, a former first-round pick, 9th overall in 1990, who has yet to pan out in the NHL. And no. Slaney actually ended up having a fantastic American Hockey League career. Full respect, and I always had full respect, and it's the Nolan Baumgartner thing too. When you're a first-round draft pick and you're highly sought at the draft, and then your career doesn't pan out and you're in the American League, I have a lot of respect for a guy who plays like 10 plus years in the American League and, you know, rides the buses for the game he loves, and, you know, both leads that American Hockey League team, leads young players who are coming up, watches prospects pass him, go up to the NHL while he's not getting a shot. I have great respect for them, and John Slaney is one of the best for that. At least in my lifetime among defensemen. Darren Haydar would be one I'd look at up front. And I'm mentioning names, people are gonna be like, who? But that's the key thing. The guys who slog and toil in the minors and end up with expansion teams. This is something to consider with Vegas coming into the league. These are the kinds of guys they should be looking at. And not just because, oh, well, maybe that first-round draft pick will work out for us, but because a guy like a John Slaney can help mentor your young defenseman. Nashville's defense has always been fantastic. You look at the list of defensemen that have come through Nashville, and it is an intimidating list, and that's not by accident. David Poile has always put a premium on defensemen because he seems to understand where other GMs, for whatever reason, look for that flash and dash. Nashville always has looked at defense and said, okay, we need to make sure we have defense and goaltending because forwards will be available. Forwards will be available for trades and drafts. Those top four defensemen, very, very, very rare that one of them is available. So, and then when they are, you have to pay a mint for them. So Nashville's a very smart team. For a team that has had limited success in their 20 years, very smart when it comes to the blue line. Goaltenders, the top two are career backups looking to show that they can handle the #1 job, while the third is a former first stringer who has fallen down the ladder. The first comparison that comes to mind with Dunham is Olaf Kolzig. That's Mike Dunham, who led Trotz's Portland team to the Calder Cup in '94. Like Kolzig, Dunham is a big man, 6'3", 195, and at 26, just a couple years younger than Washington's goalie. Kolzig blossomed into one of the league's top netminders last year, Dunham gets his chance this year. And due to injuries and inconsistent play, it didn't really work out for him, but Nashville did give him every opportunity to grab the brass ring or grab the ball and run with it, however you want to put it. Dunham has performed very well on every level, piling up 41 regular season wins and a 2.72 goals against average at University of Maine, a program he led to an NCAA championship in '93. With Team USA a year later, he was 22-9-2. With Albany of the American Hockey League, he compiled a 53-20-12 record over parts of 4 seasons. And on the rare occasions Dunham got a chance to step in for Brodeur in New Jersey, he went 13-12-4 with an impressive 2.42 goals against average. Keep in mind, this from 97-98. Goals against averages were a little bit higher, just a touch, and save percentage was just a touch lower than where they are now. Just a touch, because this was the dead puck era. One thing to keep in mind, though, is those statistics come with a talented, defense-oriented Devils team. These Predators will be a different story. Mikhail Stadlenkov, 32, is a few years older and has seen his career follow a similar pattern. Playing second fiddle to Guy Hebert in Anaheim, he went 34, 53, and 11 with a 3.14 goals against in 5 seasons. But Stalenkov, his statistics as opposed to Dunham's are probably skewed in the other direction since he's only played for the poor Mighty Ducks team. The Mighty Ducks were not a good team defensively at this point. Stalenkov has a solid Olympic pedigree, winning 7 games and leading the unified team to the gold medal in '92. And also playing on Russia's gold medal winning team earlier this year. Dominic Roussel, at 28, is hoping to resurrect a career that's gone steadily downhill since he went 29-20-5 with the Flyers in '93-94. He fell out of favor in Philadelphia over the next couple of seasons and wound up out of the NHL altogether. The Flyers loaned him to the Canadian national team last season, where Roussel rebounded with a 25-12-1 record and a 2.24 goals against. Nashville will give Roussel, a butterfly-style goalie, an opportunity to contend with Stalenkov behind Dunham. So they got, half-decent goaltending. And again, looking at with Vegas coming into the league this year, I could see Vegas ending up with a similar situation in goal. Yes, they'll probably end up with a much better starter right out of the gate. But with teams making trades with them and they're going to want to stock up on draft picks, I don't really think Vegas is going to start out with tremendous depth in net. The bottom line, the best expansion record of the NHL's modern era is Florida's 33-34-17 performance of '93-94. That's a nice goal to shoot for, but unrealistic for this team. As if being the league's newest team wasn't enough, Nashville finds itself in the Central Division. That means the Predators will pay the Red Wings and Blues 6 times each, and teams such as Colorado and Dallas 4 times each. To expect the Predators to finish only a game below 500 is expecting too much. Though Nashville is built around speed, like many of the teams in the conference, the Predators will find it difficult to score goals. Any first-season victories will probably come courtesy of solid defense and good goaltending. So that being said, you get out the Bible of hockey book here, which it really is. So that first season, they had 63 points in 82 games. They won 28 games. They had 190 goals for, 261 against. Their goals against did let them down. I believe Dunham was hurt that first year for part of the season, and then his career just kind of skidded off the rails after that. After the 63-point season, they then had 70 the year after, 80 the year after that, dropped 69, went to 74, went up to 91 to make the playoffs for the first time in 03-04. But all the way through, they had Barry Trotz. Barry Trotz was the coach till 2013-14, and Barry Trotz always managed to get Nashville to compete. The key thing with Nashville is compete. And while I've never been really a Predators fan, I will say they've always been one of the hardest working teams in the league. They really have. Now, in terms of career stats, games played, David Legwand rules that with 956. Goals, David Legwand rules that with 210. Assists, David Legwand, 356, which means he had 566 points. So, Legwand, who was widely considered an iffy pick, not in terms of being a draft pick for the Predators, but number 2 overall. He never quite achieved the offense that he was supposed to as number 2 overall pick. In games played, Shea Weber's next was 763. Martin Erat, 723. Kimmo Timonen 573, Ryan Suter 542, Greg Johnson 502, Jared Smithson 497, Jordan Tutu 486, Dan Hamhuis Hammer 483, Pekka Rinne 458. So goaltenders at number 10. In terms of goals, interesting ones on this list. Shea Weber's actually number 2 with 166. Jason Arnett's at 4th at 107. Patrick Hornqvist is 5th with 106. Scott Walker had 96 goals for them. The only current Predator is tied for 9th. It's a 3-way tie, and Scott Hartnell's the one who's there. So assists, again, you know, with Legwand in the lead. Erat's second. Erat was 3rd in goals. Shea Weber's 3rd in assists. Timonen's 4th with 222. JP Dumont, who had 93 goals for a tie with 9th place with Hartnell, is 6th place in assists with 174. Sullivan 163. Scott Walker 151. Cliff Ronning sits tied for 9th with Greg Johnson for 145. Points, it's David Legwand, then Martin Erat with 41, Shea Weber with 443, Kimmo Timonen 301, JP Dumont 267, Steve Sullivan 263, Scott Walker 247, a tie for 8th between Greg Johnson and Ryan Suter with 238, and then Jason Arnott with 229. So Nashville right now has a roster that's new enough that even though these stats are modest for career totals, nobody's on that list from the current team, other than Hartnell. And Hartnell's not exactly a young kid. Power play goals, Shea Weber leads the way with 80. Kimmo Timonen's 2nd with 46. Martin Erat's 3rd with 42. Yeah, I know you're down there, Shadow. I see you. I know. I'm trying to do a video, kitty. I'm trying to do a video here. And I'm not trying to be a jerk. I just, you know, where are you going? I'm not trying to be a jerk, kitty. I'm trying to do a video here. That's all. That's the internet out there. See that? That's the internet. And the internet's watching. And I'm boring. See, she's bored, so go over and talk to her. Yeah, so power play goals, Shea Weber, Kimmo Timonen, Martin Erat with 42, Jason Arnott with 40, Steve Sullivan 37. Interesting ones on this list. Andy Delmore with 25. It's easy to forget Andy Delmore, who had a couple of really good seasons for the Predators. Also tied for 10th, Craig Smith with 25, Marek Zidlichky with 25. Zidlichky was another good find for the Predators, who always seem to have good finds in their system. Shorthanded goals, any surprises here? Vitaly Ekmanev with 5 is tied for 6th with Jared Smithson and Shea Weber. Only time you're going to see Jared Smithson on an offensive list. Scott Nichols, Sebastian Bordelot, and Vernon Fiddler are tied for 9th with 4 goals. And then, yeah, that's it for that. Now, in terms of goaltenders, wins. Only 9 goaltenders in 20 years have had a win for the Nashville Predators. That surprises me. Pekka Rinne with 242, Thomas Vokoun with 161, Mike Dunham with 81, Chris Mason with 59, Dan Ellis with 49, Carter Hutton with 33, Anders Lindback with 16, Marek Mazanich with 8, and UC Saros with 1 is 9th on their all-time list. So that's kind of crazy. Their shutouts list, and again, there's only 8 goaltenders that have ever had a shutout for the Predators. Pekka Rinne with 40, Thomas Vokoun with 21, Chris Mason 12, Dan Ellis 10, Mike Dunham with 8, Carter Hutton with 4, and tied for 7th with 2 each are Marek Mazanich and Anders Lindback. So it is a short list of short lists, considering they've got a lot of games and they've played 1,360 games. So the idea that only 9 goaltenders have wins is pretty crazy. That is an amazing stat. Most points in the season by a defenseman. This is interesting. Roman Josi was 61, and that was last year. So Josi is going to push his way onto their scoring list, but it's not going to take very long. And you've got other defensemen in there too. You've got PK Subban, of course, was brought in. Ryan Ellis, Matthias Ekholm's very good. Like, Nashville has always had the defenseman. And as long as you have a good defense, you're going to contend for a playoff spot at the very least. Pretty damn fantastic. And Peter Laviolette has been a very, very good coach for them. I've always been kind of surprised by Laviolette getting let go in places he has, but he's a good coach. He is a good coach. He won the cup in Carolina. He coached very well in Philly. Got them to the Stanley Cup final his first year there, and has been good for Nashville. This is his third year in Nashville. Hell, he even got the New York Islanders to the playoffs both years he was there in the early 2000s. And getting the Islanders to the playoffs in back-to-back seasons is something that's a Herculean task when you look back to that. That's not too long. Geez, 2002, 2003 could even be the era of Milbury. I don't think so. Man, when I get to the Islanders, I could really get into the Milbury era. I could have a lot of fun with that. No, that's the Mike Milbury era. So Peter Laviolette during the Mike Milbury era got the Islanders to the playoffs both seasons. So damn good coach. And David Poile, and I was pretty sure of this. Poile's still the GM. He's president of hockey operations and general manager, and there really is no reason to get rid of him. So, yeah, Nashville, one of the teams that I don't cheer for or cheer against, but man, in last year's playoffs, it was hard not to pull for them. Anaheim, they did me a tremendous service against Anaheim, and I became a giant Predators fan during last year's playoffs. It's just a shame that it didn't go past the second round, because that could have been tremendous fun. So, again, hopefully they get back to the playoffs and maybe take out an Anaheim, or maybe they get revenge on San Jose. You know, that kind of thing. Maybe just, a little bit. Or was it Dallas? I better not mess that up. I'm pretty sure I'm right. But man, if I mess that up, people are never going to let me hear the end of it. You can't remember last year's playoffs. Oh, I don't think we can watch him anymore. How do we watch his videos when he's not sure who's dead?
That's cute.
What's cute?
You. That voice is awesome.
Isn't that hot?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's good, eh?
That's kind of what I was thinking.
All right. As long as it's cute.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no. San Jose knocked him out. San Jose's knocked him out 3 times. I don't know that, at least last year they didn't go out quickly. They went out in 7, but 3 times San Jose's knocked him out. So I don't know what they have, and they've knocked Anaheim out both times they've played them. So again, third's the charm. Hopefully not for Anaheim. Hopefully this year Nashville does it again. And that was the biggest, most fun thing about this channel, was at the start of the playoffs when I said Nashville was going to knock out Anaheim, and a lot of people, and some of you people may even have been here back then. Anaheim fans didn't take that well at all, and then when it happened, yeah, that was fun. Anyways, I'm going to upload this. I'm going to be streaming later today, if it's okay with you.
You're doing that again.
I know. Isn't that sweet? Yeah, so again, this is November 12th, and this is my Nashville video. And I intend to do a live video streaming experience on this computer. I don't think I did that. Did I do it on this camera last week, or was it?
No.
No.
No, you haven't done a live stream since you've got the camera.
It's a lot of pressure. High def reacting. I don't know. I gotta get my game face on. Anyways, thanks for watching this video. If you made it to the end, don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're just browsing through. And yeah, thanks for watching, and I will talk to y'all again soon.